Hello there, curious friends. Welcome to this space. My name is Cecile Adams, and I am obsessed with how we show up as our most relentless and inquisitive selves at work. Now, as you can imagine, this obsession takes me down some weird and wonderful spaces on the internet, and I'm here to kind of share some of my observations with you. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if the same thing that sparks my interest sparks yours. So today I'm coming to you with 5 things that really caught my attention on LinkedIn this week. Now, in recent times, I've spent quite a lot of time on LinkedIn, and I just wanted to try something, see what you think about some of these things that I am liking, that I'm commenting, that I'm getting into conversation with people on LinkedIn. Now, I should actually say these are in no particular order, so it's not like number 1 is the best, number 5 is the one the furthest from the best, but I still loved it. I haven't kind of ranked them, it's just this is the first one that I'm telling you about because the first one I took the screenshot of. So Arianna Huffington shared this great picture, and it says, in a world where you can be anything, be the person who ends meetings early. So I liked the post because actually one of my pet peeves is people that just love chatting, chat in the meeting. They can never finish the meeting early. They love the sound of their voice. And yes, I know when you're in meetings, things should be interesting, and yes, you should be captivated, but at the same time, with all the will in the world, online working is not the same as when you're kind of face to face to each other, and you're picking up vibes and you're energized by physically being around people. Well, for me anyway, I guess here I'm talking about personal experience. When I'm around people, I physically gain energy from being in the same spaces as people. When I'm online, it does something for me, but not as much, like it does a little bit, but it doesn't quite take me there. And I was just like, yes, clapping hands. If you are going to be anybody, be the person that finishes the meeting early. But then, when you kind of go back and you think about it, and it's like, but actually sometimes, do you want to be the person that just finishes meetings early because you can, or is it more about coming to some sort of resolution in that meeting and making sure that you are getting value from the time that you spend with each other? And so then it took me down, the path of thinking about the amount of time that we set aside for meetings and creating cultures within our organizations where we are being intentional about this time that we spend together online. Now, as I just mentioned, for me personally, yes, I enjoy communicating with people in kind of whatever medium, but I find being on Microsoft Teams quite draining, especially if I'm in back-to-back meetings, hour after hour. It doesn't do it for me, and I find that I'm a lot less efficient if I'm going from day to day to day in that kind of environment. So personally, I've been doing an audit of my time and when I am performing at my best versus when I'm performing at my worst, and generally I'm finding anything more than 3-ish hours of Zoom of Microsoft Teams meetings, it's too much for me. It's tiring, and I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that I know there's kind of science behind this in terms of when you're looking at a screen and this is all that you've got captured and that's all that you see on somebody, it stresses our senses in a way that when we are face to face, there's so much more that we can be captivated and engaged by and with, and there's so much more that we as humans can connect to and deconstruct in the best possible way to make that experience more pleasurable and more fulfilling, and for us to feel like we're getting more value from that interaction. So I say that to say this: absolutely be the person that finishes meetings early if that's the way that you're going to get the most value from the time. Now, for me, that's if you have put aside 30 minutes for a meeting, and within that 30 minutes, we are going to cover these 3 points. You've let the people know beforehand what the 3 points are. Great. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. If you can finish in 20 minutes, great. But if you've come together, just to chat, it's just a catch up, and you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, and you're both in that space where you've realized, actually, we like spending time with each other. And then you go in for and let's just jump off early. Might not go down too well. It depends, we very much had to read the room. So I loved it, you know, and you can see the colours of the picture. I'll make sure I insert it in the screen. But, you know, it's nice colours. And we know that in terms of marketing, colours are very, very important. So I guess maybe it was the colours as well that made me kind of jump onto this. But, you know, there are caveats. Finishing meetings early, I would say 80% of the time is great. 20% of the time, I would say just check yourself. So the second thing that I saw that really caught my attention was it's a post by Cecile Adams, and looking at this post was the first time I'd come across her, and then I followed her as a result of it. So she was reporting to Molly May's comments, the comment Molly May said about, you know, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. Now, let me just start this off by saying I do not have any really strong opinions about what Molly May has said in this space. We all know that there's a million caveats that she could have added to that. Let's give the girl some grace. You know, in the same way that we give ourselves grace and we expect people to read between the lines, let's do that for people that do interviews as well. It doesn't mean that just because it's a YouTube video that they had a script that they could have written. It's a conversation, for goodness sakes. And we know that conversations are organic, and you know, it's not like she had submitted a paper on how everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. Regardless of your state, you should be able to achieve things. However, what I liked about this post by Cecilia is she really draws attention to the fact that we need to be aware and connect to the different needs and the different circumstances that people have. And some of the things that I just want to summarize is she says the reasons why she can't use the same like full 24 hours as some of us is she grew up going in and out of hospital, meaning she had to fight twice as hard to finish her education. Sometimes she's in such bad pain that she's not able to move in the day. Her immune system is weak, so she's constantly making sure that she's keeping colds and things at bay. And for me, it really struck me because especially during my education, like my full-time education years, I suffered from chronic, I don't even know if that's the word, but my period pains consistently were crippling. I could not move. I was vomiting. At one point, one of the businesses that I worked for had to pay for me to go home in a cab because I could not walk. And it was really, really hard for me when my manager, who was also a woman, was like, well, it's only your period, you know. Every woman gets this every month, or well, most women get this every month. Why is it such a big deal for you? And I was like, well, it's such a big deal for me because this is me, and I am not every woman. So do not judge me by the standards of every woman. And so I just really loved the post because it reminded me and really impressed upon me the fact that as leaders, and you know, in this space I love talking about transformation and again how we show up as our most relentless and inquisitive self. It is everybody's responsibility to cultivate spaces where people can show up as their most relentless and inquisitive selves. Part of that responsibility means getting an understanding of where people are at and knowing when they need to rest. So when we need to pull back and just give them the space to rest and to work through seasons or time periods where their bodies or their minds or their emotions are not allowing them to go full speed. It's not natural and it's not normal to expect people to be able to be going full speed every single minute, second, hour of the day. And I don't think that's what Molly May meant. Absolutely not. We know, and she's been quite transparent about, you know, her ebbs and flows, highs and lows within her own lives. But I think some of the backlash that she has received is because people have somehow kind of read in that assumption, and especially hustle culture is, you know, a thing at the moment. Go hard, wake up 4 a.m, spend 2 hours in the gym, do a water fast, you know, have 5 jobs going at the same time, making sure you get your 10 streams of income. And while in theory, you know, it sounds great in terms of productivity, in terms of building a life where you are able to have lots of money, and I'm being very intentional about saying money because absolutely, your time, your peace, your mental health, your physical health, emotional health will suffer if you are putting pressure upon yourself to every day make the absolute most of those 24 hours. So I just love Cecilia's post because it reminded me that, especially as we move into a new year, you know, hey, new year, new you, and all that jazz, we need to be filled with grace in the way that we deal with ourselves and the way that we deal with our colleagues. So the third thing that I came across that really piqued my interest is the Human-Centered Design Network, and Emily is going to be hosting a session on some common organizational design heresies, as well as 7 key principles for a more effective approach to designing with organizations. Now, I've spoken to Emily and she's absolutely great. Her mind is just wonderful in terms of engaging and thinking about things in new and refreshing ways. And the reason why this piqued my interest is, if you watched my last video, you know that I have said one of the trends that I see for 2022 and in the transformation space, change management space, people space, is this evolution and revolution of organizational design. So I just think it's great that the Human-Centered Design Network is putting on this talk, and Emily will be kind of looking at helping us to challenge ourselves on the way that we think about organizational design and the way that we engage with it. In my previous video, I talked quite a bit about organizational design, so I'll keep this really short. But I think one thing that really stands out for me is we really need to get ourselves into a space where we are pushing boundaries and we are pulling back on what we think of as normal and the way that we think of work, and furthermore the way that we define meaningful work. We are at a tipping point and the world is changing, most especially the world of work is changing. This experiment that the whole world pretty much has taken part in terms of remote working, has opened up our eyes and our sensibilities to different ways of doing things. I'm not going to say better, I'm just going to say different, because you know there's pros and cons to remote working. I don't think we can just simply paint it as the grass is greener just because you're able to work from home. Absolutely, there are some things that we gain by working from home, but absolutely there are some things that we lose or miss out on from working remotely. So I think in terms of organizational design, it's not good enough to think in the same ways, i.e., you know, you've got a leader of a team, you've got different business units. It's really questioning, and why are we bringing these people together? What value do we want to give? What purpose do people gain from being in these spaces that we are creating called work? You know, it's a really, really exciting time. Thing number 4 that I came across that really piqued my interest is Kim Crean. I wasn't following her until I came across this post, and I'll just summarize it again. It should be up on the screen. But what you can see is a note from her daughter saying, "I'm so sorry that I talked when you were on the call." And I reshared this with a heart emoji because am I still allowed to call myself a new mum? Even though my oldest is 5 and my youngest is 2. So news relative, hey? But you know, absolutely, I've still got so much more to learn in terms of this mothering game. And Kim just breaks down how, you know, as a mother and you are juggling and you are on calls, sometimes we kind of get so swept up in the moment. She was on a one-to-one call, I believe, with her manager, and her daughter came in, and you know, in the time sometimes we just react, and so she shouts at her daughter and her daughter goes out crying. But then, you know, Kim kind of recovers from it, like recovers herself. She sweeps up her daughter in a hug, and you know, is very kind of vulnerable and honest in saying, you know, I apologize and I said what I did, it wasn't kind. And it just, how many times, especially working parents who are listening to this or watching this, how many times have we reacted to our children in ways that are disproportionate? And, you know, maybe we've exploded just because within us there's so much going on. And obviously balancing and juggling, it is not easy. But Kim has even said she keeps this as a reminder to herself in terms of this balancing act that we're going on, and how to show up better, and how to handle situations with the grace and intentionality that they require. And so, you know, this one really, really just pulled my heartstrings. I have also things like that kind of stuck around that remind me that, you know, I'm a mum first, I'm a human first, and work is but for a moment, and I should never be kind of so drawn in and focused on my work that I am not the kindest version of myself and to my children and to my husband and to my colleagues, you know, the people around me and the people that make life worth living, really. So encouraging you here, if you do not have something similar to this. So for me, I keep pictures of my children's paintings around my desk and on my desk, just to remind me of the child within me, and to approach everything with that innocence and playfulness and belief. Because as we get older, let's be honest, we gain some layers, you know, like an onion. Is it an onion? I don't know. Well, they're harder layers than an onion, and we become a bit skeptical and a bit brash and disillusioned, and that can really seep into everything that we do and how we approach work, people, life, love. And so I keep these pictures from my children around me to remind myself that I was a child once, and that same awe that I had then, I have to be intentional about cultivating it now to make the most of every single moment with myself, with my colleagues, with my children. So absolutely love that. Now the fifth thing that I'll be sharing that I have seen on LinkedIn this week that has absolutely captivated me is this piece of research by Boston Consulting. So I posted about this just because, again, last week I posted on the 2022 change management trends, and Boston Consulting have carried out some research on overall priorities in different areas of the world. So you've got Brazil, Canada, Mexico, USA as a whole, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Lithuania, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, and the UK represented in this piece of research. I'm not going to go through every single bit painstakingly. Observation number one, across the world, the priorities are slightly different. However, there are some very strong trends. So across the board, globally, what we are seeing is a prioritization of people and HR strategy, planning and analytics, and also purpose, behavior, leadership, and culture change. Come on. What did I say about change and the focus there? I mean, it feels a bit obvious to state that change would be a priority globally, given the past 2 years that we've had. But, you know, sometimes common sense isn't that common. That's what I like to say. And I think especially within the leadership space, especially within the transformation space, I think change has always been a constant there, but it's now the level of change that we are seeing. And so it's just, you know, if you're looking for a sign, this is that nudge to really focus your attentions to, okay, now how do I really learn about change? How do I really learn about behavior and people and purpose, so that I can really maximize what I am getting from the work that I produce, and what the teams I support and lead are getting from the work that they produce. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think your organizational priorities should be for 2022? Otherwise, I will leave it there. Let me know what you think of this lowdown that I'm giving of things that I found interesting on LinkedIn for the week. I'll try this for a couple of weeks, see how it goes, because I really find LinkedIn a gold mine in terms of seeing things and engaging with things that really, really kind of get the juices flowing within my mind. That said, hope you have an amazing day. Take care of yourself. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe so that you're notified each and every single time I post. Bye.